Hello, good morning everybody. Today is the 20th day of the month of Tavis. This is the yard site of the Rambam of Maimonides. He passed away in the year 85 or something like that. And it's also the 11th of January, and we welcome everybody to the class. Say hi, Mom. As we go around, look at the beautiful people who are here today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hi.
I think we missed Pat. Yeah, Pat.
Take a close-up.
This way we can look at the video if we have to.
All right. And we are currently on the page 18, page 19. This discourse, which we have not begun yet, if you want to be part of the beginning of this, once I get back to town, we will definitely begin. I'm not sure if we're going to even begin it today. We may. We have to finish the introduction first. We're studying the introduction of this discourse right now. The introduction introduced us to a very interesting dilemma. The giving of tzedakah, which this is the Kabbalistic and mystical goings-on, happenings, when a person donates to tzedakah. Giving of tzedakah. So the Torah describes the giving of tzedakah as an investment where you will reap your benefits here. Nobody loses out of giving tzedakah. There are other mitzvahs that we do. We have accumulation of commandments, of mitzvahs that we do. We say a blessing, we keep kosher, we Shabbos, we put on tefillin, we have mitzvahs. All the mitzvahs that we do, not necessarily will we see the reward in this world. The reward is stored somewhere and for some purpose and for some reason, whatever the reason may be. Tzedakah, though, is something that is currency that we could use if we didn't give it away. God says you will not lose from giving away tzedakah. You will not lose from giving charity. I will repay you here in this world. And the reason is because the giving away of money to someone else, funds to someone else that we could have used, means that we're going out of ourselves. We are granted a certain amount. When we give away something, we're giving it away. Let's say not funds. Let's say you had a poor person and you invited him or her for a meal. You're giving food that you could have eaten and that could have sustained you and your family, to someone else. I'm not talking about sharing among friends, which is always enough. I'm talking about simply giving away. So we're going out of ourselves. We're going out of the regular human limitation. The limitation of a human being is what's mine is mine. I close my doors at night. I lock them and make sure no one else can enter them. I put security around me because I don't want other people violating my territory, my home, my room, my place, my business. We tend to keep ourselves securely, safely closed up. That's what we do. So giving away something from ourselves to someone else doesn't always necessarily work for people. It might be very, very difficult. We mentioned this last week. Abraham, when he had a circumcision, was 99 years old, and the third day was the most painful day, and God did him a favor. He made it so hot that people were not coming and going, so it didn't take him away from convalescing. He had to sit down and relax. It hurts down there. And he couldn't handle that. He was in more pain from not having people. He was sitting at the entrance of his tent waiting for somebody to walk past. Because he epitomized chesed. He epitomized kindness. He had to give away. But most people would enjoy that reprieve and stay in bed the rest of the day. Hang out on the couch. Watch a movie. Try to distract yourself from the pain. He didn't do that. But most people are not like that. Most people are limited in their own way. And that's being human. We are territorial. We want our territory. We want our things, our matters, our possessions, and our finances. We want it to be ours. Says God, I'm giving you, I'm blessing you with more than others, so that you can give away. It's a deposit. You are my emissary. and you will not lose from giving away. This is what we studied. Then the question arises, if that's the case, how should a person give? If I had $1,000 and I wanted to give to the charity campaign of Kabbalah Coffee, I had $1,000 I wanted to give. If a person, every time you give, it creates this opening, this channel up to God, well then maybe a person should do not give the 1,000 at one shot and give it $1 a day for 1,000 days. Okay, 1,000 days is a little too long. $3 a day for 365 days, or 3 point something every day until the end of the year. And you get a mitzvah every single day. And so in the final analysis, we go back and forth over here. According to the Kabbalah, one should give every single day. But there are different needs. You see, to a poor person, he may need $3 to buy a loaf of bread and a glass of milk. And that's $3. That's just $3 a day. But for the Kabbalah Peachtree City charity campaign, they needed the $1,000 at that time. And so one has to divide. I'm going to make this year $20,000. I have $2,000 I'm going to give away. That's a tenth of my earnings I'm going to give away to tzedakah. I'll give $1,000 to the charity campaign, and the rest of the year I'll give $3 a day, or $1 a day, or half a dollar a day, or 10 cents a day, whatever it might be, to give the mitzvah, to train yourself to give, to the mitzvah of the art of giving. So that's where we stopped. If you look at top of page 19, the last paragraph where we finished last week, sums it up nicely. We might be inspired to do something dramatic, give lots of money. But inspiration can come and go if it can flare up suddenly and dissipate just as quickly. Serving God is about consistent dedication. It's the giving every day, the training of ourselves that despite the fact that money is ours and we earned it, we put our life into earning this money, we invested it or we earned it, we worked for it, we still train ourselves to give some of it, a percentage of it away. And if the mitzvah of tzedakah is any indication, it is this approach that truly brings heaven down to earth and realizes the ultimate purpose of creation, because the entire creation is also in the form of giving. Everything that is in this world takes something but gives it back, except for the inanimate. The lifeless matter doesn't take anything, doesn't need anything from this world. Earth doesn't need anything. It gives. It's created to give. It's the cradle of everything. And water doesn't give. It doesn't take. It just gives. It doesn't have to take. And so on. But everything that has a life to it, that needs to be sustained by something external outside of it, all of those things give. The plants give. The trees give. The animals, the insects, the birds, everything gives in its way. Human beings, we need to stay away from causing trouble, but we need to train ourselves to give to our fellow. Animals don't give to just give to their children, they give to their offspring, but they don't give to each other. In fact, they will kill each other rather than give anything. Human beings, on the other hand, are created with a mind, with intelligence, with a consciousness, and our mission is to give. Okay. Now we are going to study the summary of the discourse in various points that are put out over here before we get to it. We should study this at the end, and maybe we'll get back to it at the end of it, if we need it. Huh? Discourse summary, page 19.
Pages are not really showing the numbers of discourse.
The two models of giving, this is how the discourse will begin. The discourse begins by quoting the Talmudic statement that when it comes to giving of tzedakah, each and every coin adds up to a large sum. I want to remind you again of my sermon, I believe it was on Yom Kippur, even I'm beginning to forget it. And it was, I woken up in the morning, pretty early on Yom Kippur morning. And no, I didn't get a cup of coffee or a piece of cake. But I said to myself, there's a reason why I've woken up this early. And I opened up the first book I found, and on the first page of the book was a story that that completely changed my sermon. And the story was about a person. I wasn't looking for this, but I realized that God made me find this. And I shared this about a person who wasn't so stellar in his life. And when he came up after 120, the court up there, whatever goes on up there, but the proceedings were that this person was judged unfavorably and going wherever unfavorably judged people go. And then all of a sudden a commotion, and then a whole big business came, and that was something that he had done in his youth. And he had saved a whole bunch of people. One good deed that he did. And that, anyway, not to get into the details of the story, he had saved the whole, he gave up himself, he put his life in peril. And that giving saved him from the unfavorable. That one act, he lived a life of not very spiritually advanced. And that one act, though, changed everything. And the point of the sermon was, we're talking about parents then, it was Lister, and one should look favorably at their parents. You never know how many, what good they could have done and brought us into this world, and whatever. The sermon was a sermon, but the idea was that we don't know how to judge an act of giving. And that's why he said that every coin, each and every coin, it's not about the coin. Sometimes you don't give coin, you give paper. Does paper also matter? And what about time and of ourselves and our commitments that we make to others and on behalf of others? So every little act, not just every coin, every time we give of ourselves, it adds up. Everything. And so we shouldn't, say, well, it's not mine. What's mine? Your contribution is a lot, and we don't know into which fund it's going. So each and every coin adds up to a large sum. Considering, however, the value of each individual mitzvah and its attendant reward, that means every single mitzvah can lead up to a lot. Why is there a need to inform us that each amount given to tzedakah is added up together? Certainly, each instance of giving to tzedakah is valuable on its own. What do you mean adds up? It's an individual mitzvah. So each mitzvah should be a good mitzvah. Why do you tell us it's adding up? You're giving us this guilt trip thing. Oh, you put the coin in every day, it's going to add up. We know that. But is that what we're looking for? We're looking for the added, or we're looking for the individual mitzvah? Furthermore, the Talmud seems to imply that giving a large sum to tzedakah at once is the ideal. That means giving $1,000, that's the ideal. It's just that giving in smaller amounts is considered to also add up to the large sum. So it's an additional benefit. Where if you give $1,000 every year, so it's going to add up to a large sum after 10 years. It's $10,000. This seems to be at odds with classic Jewish philosophical and mystical teachings about tzedakah, which promote more frequent giving in albeit smaller amounts to larger, less frequent giving. It's better to give a smaller amount and add up to the amount than to give more but less frequently.
It's not clear the way this is written.
Correct. It's not. We don't know about the writer.
Yeah.
We don't know who wrote this, but he doesn't write clear. Yeah, at least
Because it's like he's saying the same thing.
No. I'll tell you what he's saying. What he's saying is that it seems from the Talmud that the ideal giving is to give a big amount at once. Yet we know, this is the last part of what he's saying, we know that the giving every day more frequently is more precious than simply giving less frequently, which means once a year I'll give you $1,000 instead of saying every day I'll give you $3 till the end of the year.
So basically he's saying ignore what I said after the
No,
semicolon
he's asking
right
the
here.
question. He's asking the question. Why would you say that giving a large amount is the ideal when, according to all philosophical and mystical ways, it would seem that giving frequently, even less amounts seems to be more the ideal way, more ideal than anything else. So giving less, but more often every day or every week, rather than giving one big sum once a year. Here's my annual donation, my high holiday, tzedakah.
People who do the mitzvah, this is just like a mitzvah. I mean, this is a mitzvah, so it would be intuitive that a small amount each day is just like a bracha, or like it's a mitzvah on its own.
So that's what he's asking. A small amount each day trains a person to give every day. And it's not easy. So for some people, it's simply not easy to give. And giving away is a mitzvah and on its own each and every day. And of course, I mentioned before about the needs. So there's a different way of looking at different things. When you have a need of someone who needs, if you have a need that you need, your fridge goes out and you need to spend $500, you're not going to say, "Oh, I don't have a fridge now, but I'll wait for 5 months and I'll just get $100 every month and then I'll buy my fridge and freezer." Excuse me, you won't be able to keep milk, you won't be able to keep your chicken in the fridge. You'll have nothing. You'll have no fridge. That's why we have plastic, so we can pay it off. But in the meantime, someone's got to pay for this fridge now. So the big giving are for big things. Create big things. Yet the frequency of giving trains a person to give. And that is also an important ideal. So he asks that according to the Talmud, it seems that the best thing to do is to give a big amount. At the same time, it seems from the philosophical way and from everything else that the giving of more frequently should be the ideal. That means giving less amounts, but more frequently should be the ideal. So what is it? There was once a great Hasidic master, great Hasidic Rebbe, who lived in the dawn of Hasidism. And the custom is that the followers would come in with a piece of paper, a note, something that they want to request. We put it on the. This is how it was with the Rebbe as well. You write down whatever you want. All communication happened more on paper than on anything else, because for a few reasons. First of all, it takes time to get stuff out. When you come and talk, it's an hour. The Rebbe was seeing hundreds of people every 3 out of 7 days of the week. Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Sometimes it would start at 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes it would go till 8 the next morning, or later. 12 straight hours without a break. No breaks. He wouldn't take a break for an hour to have a snack or have a cup of coffee. Nothing. That was when it was very busy times and a lot of guests would come. And other times, where there wasn't that many people, there were other people who made appointments for different times. They would go to 2, 3 in the morning or later. And he never finished before 2 o'clock. And you imagine a person standing there saying, "Well, let me say it this way. I can describe you with it if you're wasting time and words." So the custom has always been in the Hasidic movement, get your thoughts together. When you do, hold on a second, let me just, I have a do not disturb app.
You can turn it on.
I can turn it off, you will not hear another sound for 1 hour. So, when you write things down, you can't just write rambling on. You look at it, you're embarrassed. So you'll spend 2 or 3 hours collecting your thoughts, choosing your words, writing it the best way you can. So when you got into the Rebbe, it took him about 10 seconds. He would read your note, and if you had 2, 3 pages, he would read that within less than a minute, usually 30 to 40 seconds. And then he would say, about point 1, he'll put it down, about point 1, about point 2, about point 3, about point 4. It's going to take him 20 minutes, but he would just rattle off to you. You would forget what you wrote in there. He would know exactly what you've written in there. And he was speed reader. He would read like this. He would push the paper through his thumb and finger like this. He would hold the paper like this. And he would just go. and you read through it, and this could have been, you know, this is my life dream, to write a book about these points. And he would say, point number 4 and 8 are inconsistent with 1 and 6. And by the way, it's also inconsistent with what it says in this book and that book. Like, he's analyzed this entire point in the 30 seconds that he spent reading the paper. So you're talking about otherworldly type of, godly type of person. But if you, and that would save all the time. Because imagine if I went in there and I said, I want to produce this book, and this is my idea. An hour later, you haven't get finished and you don't even know what you're saying. So it was always better to save time and to allow other people as well to write down. It was always, and when you wrote down what you thought your needs would be and so on. There were people, by the way, who came to the Rebbe. I know somebody, I heard it from a person that happened, who had a few blank sheets of paper in his pocket because he wanted, just in case he had some more, he needed some more paper to write with. And he ended up handing the Rebbe a blank sheet of paper. He didn't give the thing that he wrote. He gave a blank sheet of paper. And the Rebbe answered every single thing that he had. Then he walks out and he finds his note in his pocket, and he realized he gave the wrong piece of paper. I heard this person happen. So we're not talking about here like a regular. He can see through you. He saw into your heart, to your soul. That's what he saw. Anyway. So this guy comes into the Rebbe, and the custom was, if you're asking the Rebbe for a blessing, you would give the Rebbe some tzedakah. The Rebbes gave out lots of tzedakah. This Rebbe gave every Sunday, was giving out dollars. Millions upon millions of dollars was given out. And he ran all kinds of funds. Funds for the poor, funds for Torah scholars, funds for Torah writers, funds for girls who did this, and for tefillin, and for kosher, and he had all kinds of funds. And so you would give the Rebbe some tzedakah. You give $18, if you can get more, you gave more. Whoever you were, you gave something for tzedakah. So it went into whatever funds you got a receipt every single time from whichever fund he chose to put it in, or you chose to put it, whatever you got a receipt. This wasn't for his personal use at all. Rebbe was given a salary like everyone else was salary, and it was not a very good salary either. And when they gave to the rest of the secretariat of his, they gave him also a raise. He was paid by the organization that he was heading. Can you imagine that? Anyway, so, and he refused to receive any kind of gifts and any kind of anything. He had a Cadillac from the 60s, and in 1986 they brought him this new, I told this story, brought him this new, fancy, loaded Cadillac, and he walks out and he says, "Where's the old one?" And the Rabbi Krinsky, who was one of the secretariat plus his driver, he said it was right behind the veneers. Rabbi said, I found nothing wrong with that. Can you please get in there? And then a couple of, and this car kept on breaking down every 2 or 3 months, and they had to get parts from the 60s. And a couple of months later, the Rabbi spoke about this, and he said, "What can I do? I don't care for gifts. I don't need this. I don't need it. I'm happy with whatever it is." My grandfather, and this is the last story I'm telling, my grandfather, who had a very unique relationship with the Rebbe, was thinking, what can he buy for the Rebbe's 80th birthday? And one thing that bothered him was that on the Rebbe's table, the bottle of wine was always in a paper bag. And he felt on the royal table should be a silver decanter like there is in all the other Rebbe courts that you see, or fancy. The Rebbe had this Kiddush cup, but he had this paper bag and so my grandfather wrote to the Rebbe that we are the congregation over here in Manchester, the followers here, and we'll all gather together, we're going to buy you this. The Rebbe writes him back a letter, sends it express mail, and in it he writes, I'm very grateful for your thoughts, and your thoughts are appropriate and nice, but I'm going to continue using my bag, bottle, bag. He wrote in his handwriting, his holy handwriting, bag, in English. I'm going to continue using my bag because I tend to realize that people like to follow and copy me. And I don't want people to feel required or responsible to go buy a silver thing to be on their table. So I prefer to be, use as least as possible. Only a leader, a true leader who sees everyone else, not himself, can think that way. He sends him an express letter. Don't even bring it here. Don't worry about it. I'm very happy with using a bagged item on my table, which didn't quite fit. I actually didn't leave it on the table. We put it under the table. They would fill it up and then they'd put it down under the table. It wasn't even on the table. That was the extent of how they enjoyed gifts. They did very much enjoy receiving money for tzedakah purposes because they gave so much. All these rabbis, Chabad at least, I don't know what happened to the other ones, but in the Chabad system, these rabbis were constantly traveling and giving and giving and giving. So, this great Hasidic master in the early dawn era of Hasidism was, somebody came in to see him, and he gave him the piece of paper or whatever it was that they would communicate with, asking for a blessing for his soul or for his whatever it is, and he put down some 300 rubles on the table. The attendant who noticed the bag of money, those days there was no pockets in there, you don't have it. He noticed the money, he realized that, the food supply had dwindled, there was nothing on the shelves, there was no this and there was no that, and he knew that, we needed oil for the candles and we needed this one, and he was very excited to see that this wealthy man walked in with 300. He puts it down on the table, and then walks in another guy. And he says, Rebbe, I'm having very major difficulties. 2 of my daughters are engaged. I got to make a wedding. Got to make another wedding. And I don't have anything. The Rebbe says, how much do you think you need for these weddings? He said, I need 300 rupees. And the Rebbe said, right here. Here's 300 rubles. This is for your man walks out. He's going to make his weddings. The attendant walks in after that and says, Rebbe, we need some money for oil and we need some money for some food supplies. He says, I don't have anything. He says, what? The attendant, this guy just brought in 300 rubles. He said, yeah, but the next guy on here, he says, he gave it all away? I mean, couldn't he raise the last, couldn't he give him 250, keep 50 for, don't you think you deserve some, he can't make it, neither can you. So the Rebbe said, I'll tell you, that in truth, when he came in, and I saw the 300, I thought to myself, that's a lot of money. I'm wondering why God gave it to me. The next guy comes in, and he needs 300. So I said to myself, should I or shouldn't I give the 300? I can give him 100. I can give him 30, that's 10%, or 20%, 60. And some other people can also help. And some other people come in with the mitzvah. Let them participate in this great mitzvah of helping out a poor person, making a wedding, another mitzvah. And then I said to myself, but he needs 300 and you just got the 300. What's the question here? A guy gave me 300 and the next guy needs 300. So it's a fair exchange. I gave it away. What made me think that way? He said, because when the guy gave the 300, I said to myself, why is God giving to me? There must be some kind of reason, a recipient. That was my first thought. The second thought was, but maybe I shouldn't. That shouldn't, I realized, wasn't coming from the right side. It was coming from the other voices were in my head. Because my first thought was, great, what a mitzvah, I have someone else to give it to. And here, according to means, you sometimes have to assess and evaluate what are the needs. So yes, giving is very important. When you give a lot, it creates that hole that we discussed last week, that you lack. I had 300, I don't have it anymore. The bank account is down. That's a major need. At the same time, one should not neglect daily giving, because giving trains you to give, and that goes into an account, a major account as well. As he says, every little bit adds up to a big amount. Good. All right. Numbers. To get to the heart of the issue of tzedakah, the discourse introduces 2 ideas. The first idea is the Kabbalistic understanding of numeric units. single digits, single digits, double digits, triple digits, quadruple digits, and quintuple digits. So you got 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. Each unit of digits corresponds to one of the 5 dimensions of the soul. This is going to be great. This is really very beautiful. 5 dimensions of the soul, and to one of 5 spiritual dimensions within the cosmos. We've only been learning about 10 for the last year and a half, or whatever we established, it's not 2 years, I think. We've always been discussing 10. Here is a number 5 that acts a little differently. The greater the digit value, the loftier the corresponding soul and spiritual dimension. So that's one idea. The second idea pertains to the process God employed to create the worlds. Before the worlds were created, God was the one and only being whose infinite light allowed no space for anything else to exist. That means wherever we are today was completely filled with godliness. There was no space, there was nowhere to put anything. It was just the being of God. We say this every morning, and we do this on Shabbos morning in English. The Adon Olam says this. There was no beginning, there's no end, there's no one to consort with, he is completely alone. When God decided to create worlds, the first step was to limit. The first step was limitation. To limit his light and conceal his presence to allow for the possibility of oneness. That there should be the one God. I'm sorry. I read this. Why did I read oneness here? Because that's all I think about. I'm thinking about number 1. No, my God. The possibility of otherness. That means that there can be other entities here. It's interesting, and I don't want to get into this philosophical discussion now, because there is no real otherness, because we are all coming from God. Everything here is created by God. Everything is made by Him. Everything is a piece of God. Everything. So there's no real otherness. But it feels that way to us. We feel other. But it's not. That's not real. That's a pipe dream.
What's the heading on this program?
Limitation. You thought it said limitation? All right, but although that limitation and concealment of God's light now allows for self-identifying and self-aware beings to emerge, in other words, although that this fact that God created otherness allows us to see ourselves outside of the realm of God and the rest of the creation outside of the realm, we don't see God. So although that's what happened here, that God made it this ability that you shouldn't perceive or see or even feel God if you don't want to see. You can hide from it, you can go close your door and you think you're alone. So although that's how we feel, it also potentially allows for a more devious outcome. That these beings might only be aware of themselves and be completely oblivious to the reality of God, as we know. As we saw France on Friday, there is no God there. There's no God that they pray to. There's no God that they have. It's just pure, bloodthirsty evil. But as I mentioned yesterday, the idea was not to be afraid, be focused on God and trust in God. That was the message of the portion yesterday. It's not what we dream it would be. God, things change quickly. Anyway, so God created an opportunity, if you will, for people to be opposed to God, to be ignorant of God, not to even know about the God that makes them live, that makes them function, that gives them whatever they give. I'm an atheist. I don't believe. There is no God. Everything just came into being. It's all ourselves. It's whatever we are. Whoever's stronger wins. That's how it is. That's how this world is made. What God? Who God? God. But how did it happen? We're working on it. We're going to find out. every few weeks you find on these sites like AOL. I'm in AOL, so I get all these very the other side of things, which not necessarily follows the God side of things. And they're always finding planets with the potential of life. Have you ever noticed? You never ever hear that they actually found even one little iota, a wing of a butterfly, or even of a fly, or of a mosquito, or a bacteria, or a plant. They always have these big headlines. There's other, we found the world, and we potential that in Mars. They may have some ice, and there may be some. They're doing it to plant into your head that there is no God because there's life everywhere else. So we're all an accident. Everything happened. It just happened by chance. Yeah, I know it's very almost impossible. But you know what? Almost impossible. It didn't happen. The explosion created something. When was the last time an explosion created anything? Explosion created a Big Bang, and it somehow banged into. It took millions of years, but it eventually evolved and developed into something. Now, the last time I noticed, I looked at any explosion, and for the last 100 years, since explosions became a normal thing for abnormal people to use, every single time there was an explosion, every single time, without fail, it has been a disaster. It has been destructive. Nothing creative. How could you create?
Well, who's to say that if there isn't life on another world, that's not from God also?
Of course, it's from God.
So,
But let's find life. Let's find it before
Let's
you
focus
scream.
here.
Before you scream headlines, well, with potential, blah blah blah. Get with the program. It hasn't happened, but they've been looking for it since the '60s. That's over 50 years. They have been searching for life on other planets, and continue searching. It's fantastic that they're searching. I have no problem with that. It's the headlines that bother me. Stop already. When you find something, let me know. Wake me up when you. What are you doing here? That's not mine.
tell me what happens with you.
Mine is I'm hanging on. Do not disturb act is fantastic.
Evolution is 6 words, from do to zoo to you.
To move. You just had to move.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
That's
So-
the zoo.
so the idea is to show, look, if I told you that painting on the wall, which is a masterpiece from Picasso or from whoever, and that painting evolved. I had a bunch of paints, and somehow I had a fireworks together with the paint, and boom, and the paint went flying into the canvas, and look what it created. You would say, you must show it. You would say, you dream on, baby. We wouldn't accept it on a piece of canvas. Paint on a canvas, we wouldn't accept that it happened. If I told you that this watch, that my fancy watch, gold and diamonds, evolved over 1 million years until it created, it took a long time, but it came into a watch, you would say, out of your mind. If I said that the plane I was flying on evolved, it took millions of years, but it evolved. There was no technology involved, no one created anything, no one designed anything, it just happened. Because of an explosion somewhere and a volcanic eruption, and out came metal and out came... it took a long time. It took a lot of heat and a lot of wear. You're crazy. Nobody would accept that. A building downtown Atlanta, these tall buildings. No one designed it. It just happened over years. It grew like a mountain grows. Those are grew. It's crazy. When you look at it, it screams design, design, design. Someone designed this. Someone made it. Someone created it. Someone spent time on it. Not time, lots of time on it. Time, effort, toil, blood, sweat, and tears. So you're going to say that the bird out there just happened? Like decided to leave the water and then it decided to grow wings? What are you talking about? What kind of baloney is that? From an explosion, it all happened. It doesn't make any sense. But you'll talk to other people and they'll say, well, this theory, that Mishnah. But again, they themselves would never accept that inanimate, lifeless objects like buildings and planes and paintings, they happen. No one would accept that. Only living matter. The ones that really do have intelligence and brains, and they can't even figure how one piece was to the other piece yet, and they're still trying to find out what it is. Oh, that happened. Just happened. And the planets and the stars, and it just exploded into planets and it just happened. No design, no nothing. So it's easy to sit in this world, and millions of people profess that. When they say that, then you lose responsibility. You don't have to give to anyone else. Why should I give to this person? Let me find what's wrong with you. Why should I be kind to this person? This person's in my business. Let's check. Someone wrote a good job of saying that. This is a criminal. You're going to go take kosher food for this person. You're going to take your time. You're going to give up your time for this person. And I was told that you may have stirred up some anti-Rabbi Lou sentiments. Like, well, why would you go out there? Because this is a criminal. These people should have thought carefully before they did it. These are people who need more help, not less help. How are you going to rehabilitate these people if you don't give them what they are used to, something that give them something to look forward to? I don't know this guy. Never met him. I don't know if I ever will meet him. But he was in need. And when someone's in need, you give. And that's the moral thing to do, because we are responsible for one another ultimately, and that's what happens when you believe in a God. And you follow your life according to His direction. And so God creates this world, though, and He gives the potential for anyone to say whatever comes into their mind, whatever theory they decide to throw out there. And they'll prove you that your grandfather was a monkey. So this is the danger of what God did here, because now He removed His powerful, strong, godly presence from where it was, and He created an opportunity for them for it to be otherness without feeling, perceiving, and knowing God. And millions of people will write books and will run YouTube videos and will say that there is no God, it never happened, it's not true, it's not possible, everything happened by itself, by a mistake, by an explosion, whatever. It came, it happened, it chose. The fish chose to become a bird. That's what people will say. In order to stay awareness, in order to stave off this outcome, and to help ensure that created beings sense not only themselves, but also their Creator, there must be a certain measure of divine light that pierces through the darkness of the creation concealment. Darkness being that God hid His light, so the other side of that would be darkness. So to pierce through this concealment, this limitation, there must be some form of godliness that does come into this world that we can, if we work hard enough, we can perceive it and see it. This serves as a reminder that there is a reality beyond the here and now of creation. This extra piece of God that somehow comes into this world. Hence, in the Torah's account of creation, it is written, and there was evening, and there was morning one day. First evening, darkness, then morning. First darkness, then light. For when God created the worlds, He first concealed His presence, that means hiding, darkness, to allow for otherness, then shone His light to help the otherness recognize its source. He only put His light through later so that others, like us, should be able to find God, should be able to see God.
Well, I have a question here, I'm a little confused. Hashem withheld His light, right? So there was darkness. So why is there, it seems superfluous, like He pierced through it again. If He just withheld some of His light, there should be some light already in existence.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't be able to, there's no light. He removed Himself. It's a removal. But He wanted that there should be a world of otherness at the same time to be able to find that God. And for that He shined some of His infinite light directly into it without, in a different manner, without having the space taken up by the godliness. Light making. Now, in addition to the natural divine light and revelation that God shines into the space of creation, this is page 21, we have the ability through our positive mitzvah actions to elicit and draw additional and loftier lights into this world. Through our actions, this is what we bring additional, not the light that's already here. We're tapping into a higher source that's not naturally here through God, And we're drawing that down every time we do something good, every time we do a mitzvah. The one mitzvah that is especially able to elicit lofty divine light and revelation from on high is the mitzvah of tzedakah. When we give to tzedakah, when we give of what is ours, what belongs to us, we're the otherness here. It's not God's now. Now it's ours. We control it. It's in our hands. We give what belongs to us to someone less fortunate than ourselves. This triggers the same course of action on high. That means there's a more light and God's giving from what is His to you. God gives more of what is His light and revelation to the lower world. Because it is midah keneged midah. It is measure for measure. We do something that goes beyond ourselves, outside of ourselves, and we can expect God to go outside of Himself and bring it down to this world. Combining both ideas, the spiritual significance of numeric units, that means every time we give something, the more we give, the higher we're reaching. That's one level. And the unique role tzedakah has in eliciting godly light into this world, that means everything we give, every time, we can conclude that the more money we give in greater amounts, the loftier the light we will call upon. Simply stated, we cannot compare giving $1 to tzedakah to giving $10 to giving $100. What is accomplished with single digits pales in comparison with what is accomplished with triple digits and beyond. The more digits, the greater the light and the greater the revelation. That makes sense, because when we give more of ourselves, God gives more of His self. We just said that. So on the one hand, we find that by giving a bigger amount, we bring bigger godliness, more godliness into ourselves. Higher level, because we gave more, and now we expect God to give more. That's one side. The above...
Question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Where it has here, God's light into the worlds, as plural.
Mhm.
So we're talking about the worlds that we had talked about in the last
Spiritual
book?
world, yeah. All the spiritual world. The above certainly makes the case for larger contributions to tzedakah, and helps us understand the premise of the Talmud that larger tzedakah gifts are preferable to smaller ones, because it makes even spiritual sense, it makes sense even Kabbalistically. Yet, at the same time, there is much personal and spiritual value in consistently repeating positive behavior, training ourselves to do positive things. This is why the great Jewish philosophers and mystics prescribe a steady and regular course of tzedakah giving, because that is a consistency that is very important and valuable. And we went through this last Shabbos before the services in our class, before davening. We were talking then about, I've said this many times, that the most important verse in the Torah. There's a debate in the Talmud. What's most important? The most important verse in the Torah. Diane, what would you think?
I would say this.
Shema. We've been taught that with our mother's milk. Shema Yisrael. Every Jew says that. Anybody have any other suggestion? Love your fellow as yourself. That Rabbi Akiva says that's a very important principle. The greatest principle in the Torah.
Took the open book test and
Yeah, you know the answer to that. You're not allowed in this competition here.
It said giving tzedakah.
You giving tzedakah, maybe the commandment to give tzedakah. How about I am the Lord your God, faith in God, and you can think of quite a few. Then a Talmudic sage says, I suggest that the verse, which is repeated twice in the Torah, sheep should be offered in the morning and a sheep should be offered in the afternoon. That's the most important verse in the Torah. And you can hear everybody around saying, bravo, yeah, that's wrong, that's right. And indeed, one says Shema, the other one says, I am the Lord your God, love your fellow as yourself, give tzedakah. All of these are suggested. This guy comes along and says, offer a sheep in the morning on the temple altar, offer a sheep in the afternoon, and everybody says, well, why don't we think of that? Obviously, that's the most important one. Everybody agrees.
And then he goes, wait, I was just kidding.
No, you're reading too many novels. We don't get kidding in the Talmud. We do get kidding, but not in this way. Why in the world? Well, why would that verse be the most important? The most? And the reason is because Judaism demands consistency. And the truth is, life demands consistency. We get up, usually at the same time. We eat in the same bowl and from the same refrigerator. We go out in the same streets, in the same car. We go to the same office. We sit in the same seat all day long, and we come back and we want that these creature comforts that we have are actually what life is. And yeah, we look forward for 360 days for the 5-day cruise or 5-day vacation to the cabin that we have once a year, and that's the extra part. That's the inconsistent part, and we look forward to that. But if we wouldn't have the 360 consistent days, the 5 days wouldn't mean anything. So consistency in life is what life is all about. And its consistency in Judaism is the same thing. To get up and to pray the same words and put on the same tefillin and then kiss the same business and the kosher food, all of it, go to shop in the stores. And this consistency is actually the most important part of Judaism, because that gives us an ability to live it. The extra, that Passover, if you had Passover 8 days in the year, so it's something. By the time 8 days are up there, you can't wait. But if you had Passover for 360, it wouldn't mean anything. And the same thing with this eating in a sukkah, you would be sick of it. That's how it works. So, hello, good morning. We're almost done. We're just finishing the class. Morning. So consistency, which means the regular day-to-day serving God, that's the most important thing there is. Because if I said in life, okay, I'm going to the cabin for a month, I'll come back to the office and I'll be sporadic, you won't get anything done, even if you're the boss. There'll be very little you can do. I'm going to Israel with a girl who's 23 years old and heads a major business in Florida, one of these real feisty kind of kids. She's going to be the other staff member from the United States. Usually a male and a female. And if it's not a husband and wife, then it's 2 people. There'll be a rabbi, and then there'll be this girl. So she's 23 years old. She's talking she's like 73. She's running this business. She's got 20 people working for her. It's 23. She started the business herself. And she tells me that she bought one of these Wi-Fi hotspot machines. She says, I need to be available all the time. I don't know if I'm going to have it. My phone needs to be on. I said, why? She says, what are you talking about? I have 20 people. I said, when are you going on this trip for? She says, what do you mean? How can I not go on this trip? This is going to Israel. She starts telling me. But she says, but I can't give up my consistency. This is not my vacation time. This is work time. But I know I can leave if I set everything up and I'm available all the time for other people. That's consistency. Consistency means that you are doing the same thing every single day. That's what life is, and that's what Judaism is. It's being consistent. We don't have, so people come 3 times a year to shul. We say, that's very nice. I that commitment. You're coming 3 times a year. Some people don't come any time a year. So that's a good thing. But it's not a consistent thing. Because it's not consistent, it might not have, next year something might come up and it won't come to the shul. So the first thing that will go will be the religion. That's the first thing that suffers. But the God, the connection that I do have, well, I'm sorry, my friend asked me to go to golf and I just couldn't say no. I didn't have the heart. A friend I haven't seen him in 3 years. That's not consistent. That doesn't give a solid ground of connection to God. Again, second to last paragraph on page 21. Yet, at the same time, there is much personal and spiritual value in consistently repeating positive behavior. This is why the great Jewish philosophers and mystics prescribe a steady and regular course of tzedakah giving, because consistency is the most important thing in life and in religion. So what to do? Giving to tzedakah in a large sum is ideal, as it calls forth a powerful light from on high. But giving to tzedakah in a steady and consistent manner has its benefits as well. So what should we do? Resolution. Again, this is a mini. What's facing us? What's ahead of us? Now we can fully appreciate our opening statement from the Talmud and understand how it actually reconciles our dilemma in a powerful way. Give to tzedakah regularly, even though the amounts may be relatively smaller. And this giving, too, unleashes a powerful and lofty godly light. For indeed, each and every coin adds up to a large sum. We're on page 22. That was the next page. God adds up all of our consistent tzedakah giving, granting us a force of larger giving. In other words, the accumulation that we have is actually an accumulation of a big light coming in at some point. This discourse concludes by asserting that notwithstanding the incredible power of tzedakah, this is but one mitzvah that is part of a broader spiritual program. And in order to realize the full potential of the mitzvah of tzedakah, we must experience it in proper context. Practically, this means that our day ought to begin with a mindful and heartful prayer, which is the service of the heart, and then segue into engaged Torah study. In this way, our spiritual connection will be maintained, and our tzedakah giving will have the intended impact both below and above. So that is the introduction to what we are about to begin. The book begins on page 24, and our class will resume. Unfortunately, I'm doing an inconsistent thing now, breaking up the class in 2 weeks, and the class will be back here with God's help in 2 weeks. Okay, 3 weeks. The first weekend in February, I think it is.